Book 1, Part 2. A Reminder of Appetites. The Benevolence hung proudly in the skies of Nova Roma, the crown jewel of the Quintessential Order's armada. The outer hall was adorned with ornamental paints and metals, creating a work of art as well as extra layers of armor. Popa Kyrelli stood on one of the many balconies overlooking the city, laying at the foot of the mountain his villa perched upon. The atmospheric processors had been treated with a special dye to make the skies a purple shade of what normally would be blue, an important shade in the Almaca religion. The same purple gave color to the robes the Popa wore. Gold, purple, and some silvers embellished much of the villa and everything inside, including the servants and furniture. Atop the villa, upon the bow of the Benevolence and around Popa Kyrelli's neck, was the symbol of the Almaca, the wreath, a symbol that permeated the entirety of Almacan culture. The Popa's chambers were large and well furnished, modeled after Renaissance-era buildings on Earth, much like the rest of the architecture in Nova Roma. Murals depicting humanized versions of the Almaca creation myths surrounded the room on all sides, a marble fireplace with yet another wreath hanging above it. 3 loud knocks resounded from the large chamber doors. Popa, seemingly expecting such a visitor, turned. Closing his robes to appear more modest, Kyrelli made his way across the room. The doors sensed his intention with little more than an exaggerated hand gesture, and the doors unclasped their locks and opened themselves, revealing 2 figures. The first figure stood proud and imposing. The armor gleamed, and the shields gave off a slight aura from the light coming from the stained glass behind them, giving him an ethereal presence. Kyrelli knew that General Rigel was to report today regarding the ongoing tensions between the Federation of Unified Orion and the Quintessential Order. Not only were they close, but Rigel was one of the only people in the galaxy Kyrelli considered a friend. The second figure was a runt, though standing next to Rigel wasn't doing him any favors. The balding man slouched in his fine dress. Robes, not dissimilar to the Popa's, hung from his shoulders like a sheet on a skeleton. Grand Squire Karos was more of an annoyance than a scryer. His duties, as well as those who served under him, were to transcribe any conversations involving the history of the Quintessential Order. While the practice itself is certainly its own annoyance, the Grand Scryer seemed to enjoy the role he so naturally fit into so well, a thorn in the side if there ever was one, so close, so distracting, so trivial. General Rigel, Grand Squire Karos, I didn't realize you were coming so early. I would have put on the kettle. Despite having more modern luxuries than the rest of the villa, Kyrelli preferred the old ways of centuries past when conducting business in his chambers, which he often did. That's quite all right, Your Grace. My schedule is quite rushed today, I'm afraid. Karos stood silent for now, a vulture in search of his carrion. He monitored transcription being made by the drone that accompanied all scryers. It observed the conversation as follows. General Tiberius Rigel. One of our dreadnought, disappeared around 16 hours ago. Popa Kyrelli. This is most concerning. Any souls recovered? And I must ask, what was their assignment? General Tiberius Rigel. They were on border patrol, Your Holiness. One survivor was found in an escape pod, but she has been in a coma since we rescued her. Popa Kyrelli. I would like to see her, offer prayer in person if her family does not object. Of the missing ship and her crew, have all listening posts prioritize the search. I would also like to speak with the Prime Director of the Federation. Perhaps they will allow temporary passage of a search party within their borders. General T. Rigel. Yes, Your Grace. I'll make the arrangements before I leave today. Popa Kyrelli. If I may, dear friend. On a more personal note, what precisely has you in such a rush? I would prefer to conclude our meeting with tea or perhaps a bite to eat, if you'd prefer. General T. Rigel. I must regretfully decline, Your Quintessence. I'm afraid prior engagements call me away to one of our border colonies. It seems the heretics have garnered quite a following, and they have grown violent. Popa Kyrelli. This news saddens me. I preach tolerance of those amongst us who have differing opinions in regards to our faith. Yet with every inch of rope I find myself and my people lifted by the noose they tie with it. Am I wrong to offer such leniency to them? General T. Rigel, you do as Almacher would ask of any of us, Your Grace, and then some. A truer example of Almacher's grace has never blessed the heavens, nor the earths. Rigel bows. Thank you for your time, Popa Kyrelli. General Rigel turns about face and marches out of the room. End transcription. Quite the performance, Kyrelli. Kairos spoke up once Rigel was out of earshot and behind the closed chamber doors. The room, he knew, was soundproof. He could speak freely. The public record will show you as a... Kairos lifted an open palm, and a holographic script appeared hovering in the air above his hand. Let's see. A true example of Almacher's grace. Kairos closed his hand, and the hologram faded. I suppose, according to the original text, it isn't exactly untrue, is it, old friend? The vulture had found its meal, the carrion it favored most, Kyrelli's character. Kairos, why must we be at odds? We are to be amicable, if nothing else, are we not? Kyrelli often would offer the branch, preferable to the whip in his opinion. Yes, I may have redressed some of my words, and to be honest, I am very tired, and am somewhat relieved Tiberius was unable to stay for my hospitality. But my offer always extends to you. Yet you never make the offer to me, old friend. The phrase old friend left his mouth with a venomous sting. The laws regarding our proceedings dictate I treat you as that of a ghost. You are the ears of the Almacher. To regard one plainly is sacrilege. I offer you now, after official proceedings have ceased, would you like to stay for tea, or perhaps a luncheon? Kyrelli effortlessly spoke in an inviting and polite manner, as if no responsibility hung from his shoulders, carefree. Kairos took a breath. You said you were tired, Your Grace. His tone had lifted into a more appealing tone, though not pleasant. He wasn't finished with his meal. Restless nights? Kairos probed. You could say such, Kyrelli said coyly. Kairos peeked over Kyrelli's shoulders towards his bed. A hand, young and soft, was visible poking out of the curtains that surrounded his mattress. Sowing the seed of the Almacher. Taking the phrasing a little literally, I would say, Kairos sneered. Need I remind you of your own appetites? The stern yet intentionally timed cadence in his phrasing left Kairos stunned for a moment, though he feigned confidence in his newfound position within the dynamic. Perhaps this is where he always had been, never ahead nor behind, but kept firmly where Popa Kyrelli desired he be kept, controlled. The vulture became gradually aware with each passing second of the tightening leash Kyrelli held around his neck. Should you desire the tea, let the kitchen staff know on your way out. Kyrelli waved his hand, and the door opened. After a moment more of stunned silence, perhaps searching for a retort to the battle he had already lost, Kairos walked pathetically out of the room, doors closing without a touch behind him. Popa Kyrelli set his kettle on the grate, standing just outside the fireplace. He sat at the table and began looking through the news on his personal holo terminal. His words had already been released to the public. All publicly viable information was shared with the populace as the Popa became aware of it, one of the many reasons for the scrire's presence in such proceedings. Further down the page, he saw the reports of what the general had said about the heretics amongst the populace. Vasa 3 in turmoil. Almacher's star followers taking on local authorities. Too many of them, says Legate Rayner. Damn heretics.